back to Refocus. This is a 12-part series on the Kerygma, which is the story of basically who we are. And it's a lot more amazing than a lot of times we can look over a lot of it. But here we are, and this is the third episode. We're finishing up the first part of the Kerygma. God created everything, and he created everything with purpose. We matter to him, and he has a plan for us. I'm here with a couple guests, though, who are seminarians. And what's a seminarian, Nick?
Someone studying to be a Catholic priest.
Awesome. All right. I'm here with Nick Sire and Marcus Wilcox.
Hey.
Both of them are from the Norfolk area, and they're studying to be Catholic priests. They're back in town. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we've been going over the previous two episodes is just like the grandeur of the universe, how big it is, the time, how long it's been around. What does it say about God? We're going to look a little bit closer this time, okay?
Okay.
We're going to look into some details, and we're going to ask some questions, all right? So, here's a question for you. You ready? Human beings are pretty unique in the whole universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Not much like them. Can you tell me what's one thing that human beings can do that animals and plants can't do?
We can talk.
Dogs, hey, Charlie, speak.
There's a difference between a bark and a conversation.
No, I just did it, though. What's one thing?
We can laugh.
No. That's true, actually.
Yeah.
What's one thing that humans can do? I'm doing it right now.
Think.
Yeah.
Process.
Ask questions. And analyze and think of things. So we have this whole world around us, and we can actually read the world and make sense of it in a way that no one else can. And we can ask questions. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the basic words that we start questions with? What are the top three words?
Who, what, where, when.
Who, what, where, when? Okay.
I mean, that was...
Why?
Who, what, where, when, why? So you guys are studying a little bit of philosophy right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, philosophy is basically asking the big questions about life, like what and why and what's the purpose of this whole thing. And in the ancient, ancient times, leading up to now, they would ask these questions. A lot more common,
Mm-hmm.
and they would ask some questions in Latin. And Marcus, I know you love Latin. So, do you know what the word "what" is in Latin?
Quid.
Quid?
Mm-hmm.
Quid. Good. Yeah. Quid.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know what the word "why" in Latin is?
Not off the top of my head.
It's cur. C-U-R. Cur. Okay. Those are the basic building blocks of when we think and analyze anything. We quid? What is it?
Mm-hmm.
And cur? Why? Why is it? So I have a little question for you to start us off, okay? What is that?
It's a beaver.
Do you agree?
It's a picture of a beaver.
It's a picture. Very precise. So it's a beaver, yeah. And what do beavers do?
They build dams
How do they do that?
by cutting down trees with their teeth and putting them together in a certain way so that they block water.
It's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why they do that?
So they can catch fish.
But you know why?
Because they're hungry?
Because that's what beavers do. That's how they fulfill their purpose.
Okay.
If a beaver didn't do that, if a beaver grew up trying to do something else, it wouldn't fulfill its purpose. That's what beavers do.
Right.
That's the core, the why of a beaver, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Nick, what's this?
It's a bird.
Okay. Do you agree, Marcus?
I do, yes.
Okay. Nick, what do birds do?
They make nests. They sing.
Hopefully they fly.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
They fly.
And why did they do that?
Because that's what birds do.
That's great. Yeah. If they didn't do that, they wouldn't be fulfilling their purpose. That's what a bird does, right?
So what about an ostrich?
An ostrich is
A flightless bird.
An interesting case that maybe we'll come back to a couple months from now, Marcus. So when we look at the things of nature, we can look at anything, right? So we go walk outside, look at a tree.
Right.
Well, what is it? It's a tree. Or, well, like, what's its purpose? Well, its purpose is to
Be a tree.
to be a tree, which is to grow, produce fruit, reproduce. Like, you can look at anything in nature. What is its purpose, and or what is it? What is its purpose? Those are the most ancient questions in philosophy. Quid and cur. Quid cur. Quid quid cur. Cur. Okay? Got it? Those are for all the things in nature. But what about the things that are like man-made? Like, what is this?
It's a mug.
But it's a specific type of mug, right?
It's a coffee mug.
So then,
Or
What-
tea,
what
depending
is-
on what you're drinking out of it.
what is the purpose of a coffee mug?
To hold liquid.
To hold hot liquid.
To hold hot liquid? Yeah, if we were to analyze this of like what is it, you would say, well, it's made out of ceramic, which allows it to hold hot liquid without melting. It has a handle, so I'm not burnt while holding the hot liquid, so I'm not melting. And and it holds, its fit and its purpose is to hold coffee or another hot liquid, right?
Right.
We could try to use it for something different. I don't know. What else could we try to use it for?
Ice water.
Ice water?
Paperweight.
A paperweight? Yeah, we could put it on something. Paperweight. But in the end of the day, though, its purpose and what everyone would say when they look at it is to hold. It's a coffee mug. It holds hot liquid for that. That is his ultimate purpose. What about a knife?
A knife is used to cut things.
To cut things?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what is it, though? Like, what is a knife?
It's normally a blade with a handle, one edge.
It's a blade
Normally made out of metal.
made of metal, sharpened with a handle, because you're not going to hold the part with the blade. You're going to hold the part with the handle,
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to use it for
Cutting.
cutting what? Careful.
Well, I mean, really anything that you need to cut.
Okay.
Like food.
Food or hunting, you would cut, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if you tried to use that to, like, cut Nick?
It would still work. It would be bad, but it would still work.
We'll talk about that in a second. Is it really fulfilling its purpose or not? Okay, so we can analyze the natural things of the world, animals, plants, all those different things. We could say, like, well, what is it? What's its purpose? We can also analyze man-made things. Here's my next question for you. The human person is a mix of those two things.
Wait, what?
Why? Why? What do you think?
When you say those two things, you're referring to...
Natural things and man-made.
Man produces man. I mean, like, co-produces with the help of God, if you want to be specific and technical.
Marcus, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking of like all the physical things that we use as man, but it doesn't necessarily make it part of us. Like clothes or food. Although food eventually becomes part of us when we eat it. But, yeah.
And those who like food a lot
Why'd you point at me? When you
become
said
a
that?
lot like the food they eat.
What are you saying?
I'm not just saying. I'm not saying anything about you. Anyways. Okay, so how is it that a human being is a mix of both of these things? A thing of nature, but also a man-made thing together in one.
We can help determine our purpose.
Exactly. Okay, we have a nature, there's a purpose for us, but we are not just like robotically determined to like do something. Like we have freedom to like go and seek out. Right? So imagine me asking this question like to you. This is a really common question. I want you to think about it for a second. What do you want to be when you grow up? When you were a little kid? Not right now. When you were a little kid. Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Remember back when you were a little kid, what would you say?
Which time? When I was in kindergarten, I said a priest. But by the time I got into high school, I said pediatrician.
Do you know what I said in kindergarten?
What'd you say?
A garbage man.
Nice! That's pretty epic.
Do you know why? Because I woke up one morning and I heard this rumbling outside. And I looked outside, me and my brother were just like, what's going on out there? And we saw this truck and we heard it rumbling. And we saw somebody on the back of it riding away. And he was riding on the outside of it, and it was the garbage man. And I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up.
So you wanted to ride on the back of a vehicle?
I was in kindergarten, Marcus. Okay.
Obviously grew up in the city.
Hey, I do. I grew up in Omaha. Nick,
okay.
What did you want to be when you were younger?
Some days it was like a police officer. Other days it was like a construction worker.
Hey, a mustache would probably be good for both of those if you're one of those. Hey, here's an interesting thing. Would you ever go up to a dog or a plant and say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
So the question of would I or have I ask my dog all the time. I did anyway, but...
Did it tell you?
No.
Okay. Because it's not a question to be asked of anything else besides the human person. Because we are the ones who have like an ability given by God to form ourselves into the future. Like through our own free will and our actions, we become what we kind of choose to be, right? But we're made up of two things, right? A nature and we're man-made. And those two are kind of interestingly together. So what do you think most people would answer to this question? Why do you exist? What's your purpose? The most basic answer that you think most people would say.
To be happy.
To be happy. Exactly. Okay. Nick, do you agree?
I was thinking about how some people would say that there isn't like an innate purpose and it was just kind of like a random accident. Some people would go that way.
Yeah, I think people, I know people who say that. But at the same time, they're still looking for happiness.
Yeah.
It's just a thing written into us, right? That's the ultimate thing, right? Hey, what kind of happiness are we looking for, Marcus?
I mean, in most of society, it's monetary happiness.
But
they don't want problems in their life.
So how would you characterize like that? What would it? How long would it be? How big would it be? What would happiness be like that we really want?
I mean, I would have to say that most people think the bigger the better.
Okay, biggest amount of happiness possible. What about like the duration of time?
Lasting.
As lasting as possible. Okay. You ever found that the way you want it?
To be honest, yeah.
Yeah. So you never have any problems, like any pain, anything.
I mean, I do, but I still have happiness.
Sure. What do you think that most people, Nick? Where do you think that most people look to fulfill this deep longing that we want the highest amount of happiness possible for the longest period of time? What are the most common answers? How we look for that?
Some people look for it in money, in fame. Some people look for it in other people.
The people? Yeah. What do you think, Marcus?
I'd have to agree on most of those, but I mean, you also have the people that, whatever. I want to be the highest ranking official at my job. I want to be, the most well-known person or have the biggest family or have the most friends.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
In being the best at something.
Being the best at something. So one of the greatest thinkers in the Catholic Church is St. Thomas Aquinas, right? And so he's all about the quid and the cur, looking at all the different things. And he analyzed this question and he came up with 4 things that people think will fulfill their ultimate longing for happiness. And I think you caught most of them. First one is money and possessions. If I just have enough of these, I will be fulfilled in the greatest way for the longest period of time. The second one is, Marcus, you said it, honor. If I am honored and I am like on the pedestal of honor and people look up to me and I am above everyone else in some respect, that'll be happiness. The third one is power. And the fourth one is pleasure. Money, honor, power, pleasure. seems to be ringing true, like you said, all of this, right? And well, I invite you sometime, I can't get into it here, but Bishop Barron has a video where he goes through St. Thomas's arguments of how none of those fit into our actual longing for happiness, and they all fall short. And somebody I want to quote for us, maybe you saw him in Dumb and Dumber. His name's Jim Carrey. He has this quote.
That's the movie you're going with? Right.
It's not a quote from the movie. It's a quote from Jim Carrey, okay?
Right.
But he has this quote. I think it's really interesting. And he says this: I think everyone should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer. I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything that they ever dreamed of so they could see that it's not the answer. So we're a mixture of two things, right? We have a nature, something given to us, but we're also kind of a man-made thing. We form ourselves into something. We were basically just focusing on one part of that for the last 5 minutes. What part of that were we focusing on?
The man-made part.
The man-made. Mm-hmm. To the detriment, we're not even looking at who we are. Right. We never ask those fundamental questions. What are we? What's the purpose? Mm-hmm. So let's go back. Let's go into that a little bit, okay? What are we? What's the purpose? Go back to what kind of happiness are we really looking for?
Lasting happiness, the biggest amount.
Okay. This is an amazing kind of another argument. Last episode we went over arguments for God's existence. Here's an argument. Our desire for happiness is so immense, like how much we want of it and how the amount of time we want it for, that it is incapable. We are incapable of fulfilling that desire in this world. Mm-hmm. And you can ask anybody, are you as happy to the extent that you want to be, to the longest period of time? And I don't think anyone could say yes. Because that desire for happiness is bigger than this world, and it's only fulfilled by something outside of this world. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, like you mentioned, we have gone through philosophy, and we studied Thomas, and so when he points out the fact that our main happiness and our main objective is to seek God and be with God, which he's obviously outside this world. We can't aim for physical and earthly possessions. We have to aim for the spiritual and just be able to learn in the love of God. Like that is our true purpose, is to be loved and to love like God.
So the first episode of this whole series, we didn't create ourselves. We found ourselves here in this vast universe from a creator who gave life to us. Right. And gave us purpose. That's the nature of, we've received it from him. And then he doesn't just force us, though. He allows us to respond back. Why? Why? Why do we have the freedom to do that?
It gives us a greater dignity of being able to contribute that
think of
it's not so much a why, but just marveling at God's gift to us.
So the whole idea is that God's never forced into doing anything, so he freely made us. He shares his life with us. He didn't have to. And in making us, he made us in his image and likeness. And now we are given freedom. Why are we given freedom?
I think it's so that we can realize his love for us.
Uh-huh.
Instead of just, if we were born perfect and not allowed to choose anything and we didn't know any better, we wouldn't know the extent of God's love for us.
We wouldn't be able to love back.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. We wouldn't be able to love back. Here's a quote really quick. This is from the Catechism, paragraph 1718. All right, it says this: happiness, this desire is of divine origin. God has placed it in the human heart in order to draw man to the one who alone can fulfill it. our longing for happiness, which is local to like my own experience. I long for it and I search everywhere. God placed it in there as part of my nature of who I am. I received it from him in order that it would be the director to help me find him, who is the source of my happiness.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Do you know that quote from St. Augustine?
My heart is restless until it rests in you.
Yeah, do you know the beginning of that quote? You've made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. You've made us, we've received life for yourself, and we are restless with an itch that cannot be scratched until we rest in you. That was from one of my professors. He kept saying it all the time. He's a weird guy. So let's get down to the. So what are we? The quid. What do you think?
Well, we're humans, creations of God.
I would say it boils down to we are children of God.
Yeah, children. We come from the Creator himself, and so in some way we have a relationship to the one who created us, kind of like a father to a son.
Right.
And then it's like a father to a son, like Marcus, you and your dad kind of look alike.
Yeah, quite a bit, actually.
And Nick, you and your dad kind of look alike.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're kind of in his image and likeness. So you're kind of like your dad. You pick up some traits from him, right?
Just a few.
So we believe, so in Genesis 1:27, it says, God created mankind in his image. In the image of he created them, in the image and likeness of God himself. The one we came from, like a father to son, we're like him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're supposed to, like growing up in our own homes, then to turn back and to give everything over to him. Why? For what purpose? We find ourselves here in this world. Why? Why are we here? What's the sole purpose?
To praise God. To live in a life of love and to praise God.
Yeah, to know and love God.
To know and love him in this life and to be with him forever in the next. Here's the last question. This is it's not a quid or a core. It's a quam. What's quam?
Who? Right? No?
It's how.
Dang.
How do we do it? This is the biggest question. Like, how do we do that? How do we fulfill our purpose? Like the nature that God gave us, and now we have our life in our own hands. And now how do we like give our life back to him?
I mean, he gives us the ground rules and the 10 Commandments and the Beatitudes and different things like that, but just living in fullness, living in that joy, and doing our absolute best to avoid going against his will.
Living out who he made us to be.
Yeah, who he made us to be. Yeah, so his will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who he's made us to be, what we've received from him, the purpose that he's already given to us that now we have the task of living according to. And I just have this as it's a life with all the parts of our life. Like, look at all the parts of our life. Family,
Mm-hmm.
friends, what else we got?
Faith, occupation,
fun, all those. Every single part of your life. Think of all the parts of your life and all of them put together, directed towards God, that none of them are like separated off just for their own. Mm-hmm. This is what St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians. It says, whatever you do everything for the glory of God. Whatever you do everything for the glory of God. So there's a way to fulfill our purpose in all these things by doing them according to God's design and plan, right? All the things of nature have a way about them. They fulfill their purpose. All the things that are man-made fulfill their purpose. So that whole thing, like, using your knife to stab Nick, I don't think that'd be fulfilling its purpose, right?
I don't think so either.
this is where we get like the whole moral code in the spiritual life, is that things are good because God made them, and to violate that is to go against his purpose. So we don't stab Nick, okay, Marcus?
I won't.
I would appreciate it.
Never planned on it.
So when I was, maybe this is the last thing, when I was in seminary, one of the priests on staff told us that the place where we give back everything to God is an altar. Because the altar is the sign that we place things on it that are lifted up to God, and we give everything back. We're talking about the Mass later in this. That's where we come. Every part of our life when we go to Mass is supposed to be placed on the altar, as if I am just like laying out every piece of my life on the altar. And then as the priest lifts up the host, my whole life is lifted up with the Lord, as he gave his whole life to God the Father. He also said, like, we do that at Mass, when we go to Mass, but also he said, for us who are students, our desk is also like a form of an altar. That when I do my work at my desk, I am offering up to him whatever I'm doing at the desk. Think of someone who's on the road a lot. The dashboard of his car, he is offering, that's an altar in some ways, to offer up to God everything. The altar of my computer screen, if I'm just in like tech all the time, if that's my profession. Think of any other analogies like that? What do you think?
No, I'd just go right to medical personnel. With my mom being a nurse, it's like you think about the amount of sacrifice that she does on a day-to-day basis. Like her whole world is an altar that she's offering up her life. It's like she's helping people constantly, and whether it be their bed or their couch or wherever, she's helping them out. She's a hospice home health nurse, so she's got many altars in that respect. But yeah.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think? Anything else come to mind?
Yeah, not at the moment.
Yeah, so back to that quote from Paul, whatever you do, do everything for the glory of God. We have received everything as a gift from him. We didn't bring ourselves into existence. He in an act of pure love, created us. This is from Catechism. This is the very first paragraph of the Catechism. Okay? God, infinitely perfect and blessed in himself, in a plan of sheer goodness, freely created man to make him share in his own blessed life. For this reason, at every time and at every place, God draws close to man. He calls man to seek him, to know him, and to love him with all his strength, with everything that he does. I'm going to close with a quote from St. Augustine again, and this is kind of going to be a quote that leads into the bad news, which we're going to start next time. Okay, so this might make a lot of sense, okay? St. Augustine, in one of his books called The Confessions, says, "In my unlovely state, I plunged into those lovely created things which you made. You were with me, but I was not with you. I loved the things that you made, but not you. But you called and you cried out and you shattered my deafness. You were radiant and resplendent. You put to flight my blindness. You were fragrant, and I drew in my breath, and now I pant after you. I tasted you, and I feel but hunger and thirst for you. You touch me, and I'm set on fire to attain the peace which is yours." Here's the good news. Kind of bad news first. We choose all sorts of different things and we think they're going to fulfill us. But sometimes we're more attracted to the gift than we are to the gift giver. I kind of think of like someone on their wedding day. Like they're up in front, like making vows together, and like imagine like the girl as she's holding out the hand is actually like looking at her ring. And just instead of like looking up at the one who's about to pledge his life to her. I think that's basically what we kind of do to God all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the good news though. He seeks after us, he calls after us, his voice is what causes us discomfort when we're not with him. We are too important to him to be left alone. Too important. And so he'll bug us because our hearts are restless until we rest in him. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back, and our next episode is going to be the bad news. God bless everybody.